and welcome today to Through It All. This is where we have a forum, we talk about life experiences, what we've been through. I realize everybody has a story. Well, we all have come a long way, a journey to Metoka Mbari. Life has been tough, challenges, falling, waking up. I mean, all these things, we bring them here, people that have been wounded, hurting, losses, recovery, restoration. We come together and encourage somebody because we realize where I was 10 years ago, somebody else is there right now. Where you are today is not where you will be 5 years from now. And today I'm hosting a wonderful couple here. That is Professor Lukas Jenga and Hellen Njenga, a wonderful couple and friends, people who are doing a lot. Professor Jenga, karibu.
Asante, thank you,
And Helen.
Thank you.
Well, tell me, who is Professor Lukas Jenga and how about your background?
Thank you very much. Well, I'm a Christian, a businessman,
That's important.
an academic, a farmer, quite a few, but that's not where it all started. I was born and brought up in Nakuru, in a small village called Njoro. My childhood was uneventful. Obviously, challenges of growing up in those days. I think we were soon after independence. The country was still under the leadership, not really under the leadership, but economic influence of the British settlers and the like. And my parents, both of them, happened to have worked for these people. So I'm growing up at a very challenging environment, but my father quickly got into business, and that shaped our life in a different way somehow. So we came into the city, or rather into town, Nakuru town, where my father established several businesses, and we grew in that context for some time. By the time I'm 9 years old, I gave my life to Jesus, and I became a very committed Christian and started to build my faith as a child with many challenges along the way, but that's the biggest investment that I ever did, by giving my life to Jesus.
How did that happen? Did it happen in a church or in a crusade, or how did it happen?
Okay, so I happen to have relatives, my cousins who are very God-fearing, and they like to mop us or to go to events. So this particular time there was a big televangelist from the United States who had visited our town, and he was in our local stadium, the Afraha Stadium. And many people came from different parts of the country. Some of them were lame, others were blind, others were deaf. And we saw in our village people's lives being transformed. And I think it struck me, and I wanted to go and have that experience. As a child, a very inquiring child. And when I went to the meeting, everybody, after the message, they said, those who'd like to follow Jesus, lift up your hand. And I think I just followed everybody who did it. And it was just another thing, but it stuck with me. Although I wouldn't say that immediately I started practicing quite a lot, but because in my family there wasn't a lot of Christian activity then, people started to challenge me, and I think the more I got challenged, the more I got to hold.
Were your parents Christians? Are they going to church?
No. My father had been a very committed Catholic, actually going towards being ordained, the ordained ministry. He missed the opportunity to go overseas, and soon he got married, and both my mom and my dad, by the time we were little children, they were not going to church. They were very busy in their businesses, and so there wasn't anything like regular church going. However, when I visited aunties and uncles, I would join them and go to church. I was actually taught catechism in the Catholic Church by one of my uncle, and almost got baptized, but because my parents were not going to church, I never got baptized, yes.
Oh, how many siblings do you have?
We are many, we are 17. That's
are many.
we have about 9 brothers and 8 sisters.
That's a full church.
Completely. Recently, my dad called his whole family, and we were about 90-something. All of us, that's us, our wives, our children, and their children, because now there's quite a number of grandchildren, great-grandchildren to my...
He had more than one wife?
Just 2. He only had 2.
I like that, just 2.
Unlike his father who had 7, no 6. My grandfather had 6 wives. My father had 2. Some of my uncles had 2 or 3, one had 5. So it was a polygamous context, yes. Yeah.
How was it, growing up in a polygamous family?
Difficult. Without going into details, I think I wouldn't recommend it for anybody. I feel for people who have lived in polygamous family, because sometimes siblings don't like each other, not because they did anything to each other. There were just a lot of assumptions and some misconceptions, and so the tensions remain, and I've seen it in multiple polygamous families. The tensions between stepbrothers is so much, and yet there's nothing you can touch into it. There was just a rivalry between the mother, the first wife, and the second wife, and the husband not being fair to them at the same time, and that is then carried into the children and into the grandchildren and into the great-grandchildren. What a mess. It's not something I think is not attractive.
Wow.
Many other people may have different experiences. Mine was not a good one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. I hear you. Helen, nice to see you.
Thank you.
You're doing well?
Yes, indeed.
So
yes.
Who is Helen? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, Helen hails from Murang'a County, Kangema, Rodia Division, Rodia. I got married. I actually went to school in Rodia until I was 10, then came to Nairobi. Did the rest of my primary school, then went to Gilgil, did my secondary school, came back to Nairobi, did my training to become a caterer. Thereafter, I got married, got a child, lost a husband within 3 years, and well, I continued for another 2 years, then I headed to the UK, God giving me an opportunity in 1994, and that's where I have lived for the last, I was seeing that it's going to be 30 years this November. I thank God for this far He has brought me, and I have gone through a lot. My journey is full of what you can call losses and gains, but I have come to appreciate it, because all along I have known God, who has journeyed with me through the ups and downs and through the issues that I have encountered, and through it all I can say God is faithful, and I am optimistic about life. I know that God cares. I know that I will succeed in everything I lay my hands on to do, in spite of issues or losses I may encounter in life.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like what you said, through it all,
yes,
God is faithful,
yes,
and I will succeed. And you're watching Through It All. It's a wonderful program where we talk about the journey we've come along, the pains, like you have said, you've been through gains and losses. And this is all we want to bring across to somebody out there who is going through something, some season in life, and you want to get some help. Now, how has it been living in the UK? You said about 30 years. That's a long time.
It is a long
having
time.
come from Kangema,
yes,
to UK,
yeah,
that's a big change.
It's a big change, yes,
I mean, transitioning from Murang'a to Kangema, to UK.
yes.
How did that work out? Did you struggle settling down?
I must say that it is something I was looking forward to. Like I said, I lost a husband after 3 years of marriage, and I was left with a child to provide for.
How old was the child?
The child was 2 years.
Oh, so
she
young.
was 2 years, very, very young. So it was a very tragic situation. So I knew that I had to do something about empowering myself as a single mother, looking up to what is it within my reach that I can do to kind of propel myself in life now that things are the way they are. Well, in psychology over the years, I didn't know this then, but over the years in psychology we know that loss starts as soon as you are born. Okay. As soon as you are born, and that is why many children start with a cry, because they are like, where am I? Where is my comfort? It's not there anymore. Where is my protection? You kick and there is no end to, you are used to being in your own secure, nice place, and suddenly it is not the same. So we say that losses start with being born, and therefore loss is part of life. And some of us lose early, at the midlife, or it depends on what is on your plate. But if we can all know that loss is part of journey of life, I think we can cope better, because we will know that it is not just about us. It is the human, it's a human thing that along the way you will lose, and you may lose loved ones, or you may lose your limb, or you may lose your sight, or you may lose just something that will change your life completely. But that is not the end. There is hope beyond whatever loss or whatever hurdle you may come across in life. You just have to stay focused, and particularly your faith in God. If you know God, I think that is the best thing you can ever have in this life as you journey, particularly through the adventures of loss.
Now, let me ask you, because losing a spouse is a big one.
Yes.
And now you are a married woman, you're a wife, you're a mother, you're happily married and all that, just for 3 years. And here you find yourself now, people calling you a widow. Yeah. Now you're a single parent or single mother, even in the society. So what would you say was the hardest, during the period? How long did you stay being a single parent before you remarried? Yes,
I think it was a span of about 10 years.
Oh.
10 years. 10 or, round about there. The greatest hit was when it came to my relationships, because obviously I was used to journeying with couples, because I was within a couple. And then now things have changed. And I don't know whether I don't think this happens for men at all. But for women, you can tend to be, in limbo. You may not know where to fit in anymore, because with the couples, you may not fit anymore. And of course, you are not a young girl like you, therefore, life has changed. It's a new life that you're trying to explore. So my biggest hurdle was that of now recreating who I am within society, particularly when it comes to couples, and sometimes they see you as the ladies will see you as a threat to their husband, and you can't be, because some people
don't come too close.
Don't come too close. And some people, some men will actually be wanting to come too close, and therefore you find that you don't know how to behave yourself. So you find yourself having to recreate your own space. So I found myself deciding, I want to be with girls. And maybe that's why I remained so young, looking so young. I didn't want to get muddled in, this stress that was unnecessary. So I decided the girls, I was still a girl anyway, they're going to be my friends. So that was one of the greatest hurdles. And also, actually finding your space in the new you. Your new niche in the new situation you found yourself in.
Instead of giving up, getting stressed out, depressed, and losing your life. Because there are people, when you lose a loved one or lose a child or a parent or something like that, there are people who get disillusioned and they lose their life. But I like what you say, you find your new life.
Yes.
And I think that is so important, finding your new life.
And I can attribute that to, I was very, very quick, or I was very blessed to go through bereavement counseling. And I will forever thank God for this lady. She journeyed with me, and she helped me to go to, right to the depth of it, and appreciate that this is the way it is. It's not going to change. Even if it changes, it's in another way. But what it was can never be. And therefore, I must learn how to put myself back together and know that I need to move on, not just for myself, but also for my child. So bereavement counseling, when it comes to loss of a partner, I think is crucial. So
seeking help is what you'd recommend for somebody going through loss, grief, and all that. It's good to seek help. Don't die alone. Don't just sit in your house and get depressed. Go out, talk to somebody, talk to a counselor, talk to a pastor, talk to a friend, about what you're going through. I think that's so important. So So you go to UK and you meet this handsome young man.
Yeah. So actually, I went to UK after 2 years of bereavement. A friend of mine helped me out, but it is something that I had intended, and I got it through prayer and sowing of a seed. I don't want to go that way, but I got to the UK and I find a completely new life. You know, leave alone this one of you're trying to shape it and trying to, this was now a complete slate because I didn't have friends apart from the one who took me there. I didn't know anybody, and it was a new system. The Western world coming from the third world. The weather was very hostile sometimes. I remember landing in the UK and finding that all the trees, while I was on the plane, all the trees had no leaves, and I thought, what kind of a place is this? What if there was a fire?
I know. For you, you saw firewood.
I saw the danger of there being a fire and the whole city coming to fire because I thought the trees were dry. I didn't know they had gone into hibernation because of the weather to preserve themselves. So very soon I got very busy in finding a new life, and I left my child behind because that is the way I was guided. I shouldn't have if it was today, but that's the way I was guided. So I had to now fend for myself, and I have to know how to support my child back at home. It was not an easy journey, but I thank God for my background. Our background is usually very, very, very important. Remember, I said somewhere else earlier that I worked in the farm. We picked tea, we picked coffee, we manned homes, even if they were not ours. You know, we took part in manning homes, and I really appreciate the way our generation were brought up. Yes, it was actually skills development we were getting. It's unfortunate that these days that they say that children should not work. I think it's not nice, but they get to lose a lot of opportunities of building their character, building their skills development and all. So I was able now to take charge of my life. I was able to know how to fend for myself there and support myself, and also have a little to send back home for the upbringing of my child. I had anticipated to stay for 5 years. I had only wanted to stay for 5 years in the UK so that I could get some, remember I was into business, I wanted to be able to get some good money, some good capital, whereby I can come back here and invest maybe in a hotel because I was in catering industry, maybe in a restaurant, you know. But over the years,
I've heard that story before. But you don't realize by the time you're there, 1 year, 5 years, it just goes.
So I remember I was so adamant. One of my friends decided to remind me when it was 5 years, I'm going to pay you your ticket. I'm going to pay for your ticket. You need to go back.
Wow.
Anyway, by the time I knew, it was almost about, I had to now bring my daughter because I was feeling I was losing too much time with my child. So I brought her over, and we were able to start life again together.
So
because
for 5 years you have not seen your daughter?
Yes, actually 6 years.
6 years.
6 years I hadn't seen her, but I managed to bring her over. And then it's about 3 years down the line, that's when I meet Bishop Lukas, and we fell in love. Maybe I don't know whether I could say his first.
On first sight. Love on first sight. Very quick.
Where did you meet?
We met in a memorial service that he was holding for his late wife.
Oh.
I was invited by a friend of mine who was from Kenya, but we knew each other in the UK. She was staying in the UK, and she invited me to come and support this minister who was from South Africa. He lost his wife, you know. And I decided if I wasn't going to work, I was not having a shift, I would go and support her. Little did I know what God had in store for me. And good enough, I didn't have a shift then. Because if I had a shift, maybe I could have lost the opportunity. You never know. But God directed my ways. You know this little prayer you pray in the morning, God direct my steps. It is very, very relevant. And if I were you, I would pray it every day and listen out, because sometimes we pray and we don't listen or follow God's guidance. So it is important to pray that prayer every day, because it is His promise. He will guide our steps, you know. And if we listen, we will hear the still voice saying to us, this is the way, walk in it. So I am so glad that that day came and I walked
So in a memorial service, that is to say he also lost a wife.
Yes.
Wow, so sorry to hear that.
Yes.
Maybe Dr. Lucas, before we come back to Helen. Oh my, I love your story. Very inspiring.
Thank
what
you.
the Lord has done in your life.
Yes.
Tell us, you went, how did you get to UK? Where you met?
Yeah, so maybe can I go back a bit and then come very fast towards that?
Please do.
Because it only makes sense to say that, as I grew up, I got married to Elizabeth. We were in the same fellowship. And then I had to come back from the UK to get married here. And when I got married...
So you met her in the UK?
Elizabeth, no, I met Elizabeth here.
Okay.
We used to have been in the same fellowship, although we didn't know each other that much. I was part of the leadership of the Anglican Renewal Ministry that was bringing the spiritual leadership and charismatic worship into the Anglican Church. And Elizabeth was representing her part of the country, which is the same part where Helen comes from. So when I came back and got married to Elizabeth, the church sent me to South Africa to go and do mission work in South Africa. So I didn't go back to the UK. So after getting married, I went to South Africa, and we had lived with Elizabeth in South Africa for about 6-7 years when she was diagnosed with cancer. And it was a very aggressive cancer, and within less than 2 years, she went to be with the Lord. So when Elizabeth passed on, we had 2 little children, quite young. I think the firstborn was about 3.5 years, and the secondborn was about 1.5 years. So they were tiny kids. So I had to come back to Kenya to get support, because of course in South Africa I could still have gotten support, but I felt quite isolated.
It's not home.
And while I was here, I was working on my PhD, and an agency that had employed me, an international agency, sponsored me not to go back to finish my PhD in South Africa, but to go to UK. Whatever the wisdom was, I thought it was God, purely God. So I've left my 2 little kids here. I've gone to work on my PhD in Birmingham, and the first anniversary of Elizabeth's death happens when I'm working on my PhD. And it happened that one of my best, you know, the men that you have when you're getting married, who was also a clergy, was in the UK. So we spoke and we agreed, instead of him coming to Birmingham, I would rather come to London, where there are more Kenyans, and some of my family, my brothers and sisters were in London. We do a memorial service in London.
Oh, okay.
So, but he said, you need to talk to this lady because she's hosting us, and so that she can direct you or whatever, I can't remember. But she was very hard to get on the phone or have to communicate. And I just developed an interest without having seen her. I'd never seen her face, but I said, oh, this one is hard to get on the phone.